Beginning in 1986, Jane Caldwell began a career that would see her become the voice and face of Maple River High School. For 4 decades, Jane helped students, parents, teachers, and administrators cope with high school life. In 2019, Jane retired. So let's visit her and find out how she's been spending her golden years. Today's segment is brought to you by Emerald Travel and Cruises. I drove out to the Caldwell farm just outside of Amboy to ask Jane the question, what have you been doing in retirement?
Sleeping as late as I want. Taking a nap in the middle of the day if I want.
So sleeping in and napping.
Sleeping and napping if I'm tired. One time I go to water aerobics.
Really? Where's that at?
Lake Crystal.
Oh, gotcha.
2 to 3 times a week.
Very good.
Which I enjoy.
Yeah.
There's 4 of us that go on occasion if we're all going.
Uh-huh.
Kathy Caven, Ruth Lemon.
Sure.
Sometimes Susan Stevens, Gail Caven. I think those boys went to school there. Gail Caven. Anyway, so
very good.
So it's an hour-long thing, and
yeah, and I was going to say that. Well, you can do that year-round, so that works. Any other hobbies you picked up?
Hobbies? I read a lot more.
Oh, any good books lately?
Oh yeah, they're just books. They're always in happy. Always in happy at the end.
Okay, gotcha.
So we don't want anything that's sad or deep.
Okay.
Not really.
Shallow stuff put me to sleep.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right. Now, 5 years. Is there anything that was a surprise to you about retirement?
Not really. It's nice to get my pension that I get.
Yeah.
So that was good. So I still get a paycheck every month. Not quite as much, but it's still not too bad. It's more than my husband gets from his retirement from the Air National Guards.
Ah, gotcha.
But he gets medical insurance for us, so that's probably kind of evens it out.
Now, I mean, is he retired or is he still farming?
He's retired on paper.
Okay.
I think he's hauling grain right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I asked this of Jim too. Married couples in retirement. Any sort of navigating that?
The other night he had a nightmare and he almost whacked me with his arm. It was and he's never had a nightmare before. And I can't remember, it was something about he was with a friend from the neighborhood over there, and there were bats or something, and so he was, I don't know. I said, well, yeah.
That's as bad as it gets. You're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And with retirement, why don't you just take me through what's a typical day in the life of Jane Caldwell like now? You were living by the bell for so many years there.
I get to watch my soap operas when they're showing.
Live.
I don't have to tape them and then not have time to watch them and watch a whole bunch. No, I actually have another job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, tell me.
My daughter-in-law, who's married to my son Alan.
Okay. They
live up in Edina, and her mother, when Gretchen that's her name, when she went to college, they needed something to help pay for her college. So they did a lot of different products, a lot of different things, perfumes, and I don't know what else. Anyway, but what they are doing now, it's called Heim Made. That's her mom's, that's her last name, Heim, Heim, Made.
Yep.
And they have down-filled coats and vests and lined pants and skirts and wool socks. So the warehouse on the edge of town here has their product.
Oh.
Otherwise, it had been at her mom's, and her mom is 10 years older than I am. And so she was trying to get out of the business. And Gretchen is a graphic designer, so she's got another job.
Okay.
And so I do the shipping.
Oh, fun.
And When I first started it, I got an order and I was like, oh, so I went up and I shipped and I got it all ready and shipped it. And then half an hour later, I got another order. I went up and did it. I did that like for a week or so. I was going up about 5 times and I'm thinking, that's like 10 miles.
Yes.
Yes. So I've learned from that. And you wait until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon so that you can get all the stuff put together and have it to the post office in time for it to ship.
Yes.
And then if something comes in after that, you worry about that the next day.
Next day. Yes.
Yes. Well, the other thing I do is now that I'm retired, I can babysit.
Yeah.
I have a 5 year I have a 5-year-old granddaughter is coming. And it's like having a new grandchild for the first time because I started with 2 and they didn't get here very often. And then I had 3 and they still didn't get here very often. They'd come, but now little Miss Balin comes down a lot. She likes Grandma Jane.
Yep.
Because Grandma Jane plays with her.
Oh, fun.
We go to the park, and if we can't go to the park, we have to drive by. We wave at it.
Okay.
We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back to you. She helps make lunches for the field.
Oh.
She has to make one for Grandpa, one for Daddy, one for Uncle Joel, one for Uncle Ray, one for Uncle Gary, and then we had Roger Dodger that was there sometimes.
Okay.
So anyway, and she was really good because she'd put the cookies in the bag, and this was last year when she was 4. And she'd put the cookies in the bag and not even ask for one. She probably knew I'd give her one at the end, but and she'd put the potato chips in the bag, and she'd put the carrots in the bag. She'd do all the stuff, and then, but yeah. Gotcha. So I have a good time with her.
Any advice? You were Maple River secretary. Holding down the fort in that office for years. Any advice to a rookie that would be like stepping into that position?
Yep. Give yourself plenty of time to get any project done. If it's going to take you a half an hour, and then with nobody bothering you, it's going to take you at least a whole day, if not, plan 2 to 3 days, because you never know what's going to happen and how busy you're going to be and all the interruptions.
Jane and I next had a conversation about her career at Maple River.
87, because it seems like I went to Mapleton in the middle of the year.
Oh, okay.
And started because I walked into the business office and it was like they thought they knew me because I was a Caldwell and because of Seal Caldwell. I don't know, but it was like I can't remember who greeted me, and like they hardly paid attention to me. And so anyway,
so it's like, you're just one of us, aren't you?
Yes. Anyway, she was in a wheelchair all of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of my job is the science room was upstairs from the gym.
Oh, sure.
And there was no way to get her up there.
Right.
So I would piggyback her. I'd get her on my back and I'd piggyback her, and I would take her up the stairs.
Wow. Somehow I don't think that's probably ADA compliant.
No, but that was back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one time I had a dress on. I got her up there and I said, I think I should put you down. I said, I feel a little bit of wind. So we had a giggle about that.
So you started that early stuff. Take us through kind of like the reincarnations of Jane.
That was in 86, and I monitored lunch. Oh, and somebody brought a pizza in from out of town.
How dare they?
Well, that means they left the building.
Right. Busted.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I was not very happy with them. Anyway, and then so in 1987 and 88, I was in through 1980, no, just a second, 80, no, it changed from, okay, that's the year I start, 1987, 88, at the computer lab in Mapleton.
And that's when I first met you. Was in
Right,
the computer lab.
right. And part of that computer lab, um, number one, they were Apple computers. I had an IBM computer here, so Control Alt Delete, and the different how you restarted was different, and so I'd always tell the kids the wrong thing. Anyway, so and then in 1990, 91, that's when the athletic director part came on.
And who was the AD at that point?
Howard Herbst. Howard Herbst. Anyway, and so the thing that happened there was that with the Apple computer, one time I had all the sports stuff on the Apple computer, and I went to turn it on one time, and I did not realize what kind of a face normally came up, but it was a sad face. It was like, and so then I called Al Seabrans.
That's right. Yeah, he was the Mac guru, wasn't he?
And I don't remember if he got it fixed. He might have.
Oh.
But, and I'm going, I haven't printed anything of this out, and it's like, oh no. Yeah. Anyway. And Tricia C used to come in with kids, or Tricia C was in high school when.
Oh, fun.
Because they would always try to figure out how, and they probably did always, when something had to be so many pages long, and so to do the margins and the font just a little bit bigger and the spacing just, so they could get to the 10 pages or whatever they had to have.
Yeah.
So they were always finagling that around. Oh, the other thing I did, I remember that I monitored the computer lab at night.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It was open in the evenings.
Like a community use kind of thing? Huh.
That's when I was in the computer lab.
Sure.
We had it open at night. And I can't remember, it was till like 8 o'clock at night, or like 6 to 8 or something like that. And so I'd be over there. And one time when I left, it was in the winter. It was cold outside, I think. It must have been icy, so it must have been in the wintertime. And I parked on the side street, and I went to get in my car, and I slipped on the curb, and I hit my head on the street, and I laid there for a while, and I thought, they're not going to find me till tomorrow morning. I have to get up. So I did get up, got in the car, drove home, but it was like, yeah.
So you survived through your fear of embarrassment.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, I figured there was nobody going to go by even. Nobody was going to look on the ground to see if anybody was laying there.
So you were like, this could be a good light. No, it's going to be embarrassing. Must crawl to the car.
Must get to the car and get in the car and go. And then in 96, 97, I went into the high school secretary. And that was the year my son graduated, 97, and he wanted me to wait a year before I took the job.
Mom, you're going to ruin my...
He didn't, and I did have to call him to the office one time. I knew I was going to have to call him to the office. I didn't share that I needed to call him, but it came around, and I knew what I was calling him for.
Wow. Now, during that time, why don't you just talk about, because again, you had just your time frame right there. You saw a lot of changes. Mm-hmm. So what did you see, from the school itself for changes?
We had JMC.
JMC, that was the disc, wasn't it?
That was the disc. And I always gave them a hard time. I said, I should get a part of the company, because my name is Jane Marie Caldwell.
Oh.
So
ownership?
Yeah. So, yes. So, but I never did. Okay. But I did give them a hard time on that when they would come, or whenever they would come for anything that.
So for a good 2 decades or so, you were planted in that high school office, a fixture. So I've got a philosophical question for you,
Okay.
because you were, when they talked about the school did this and the school said this and the school this, that was kind of you, wasn't it? in a way, because you had connections with parents,
Mhm.
the kids, the
Mhm.
teachers, and the administrators. So of those four, which was the easiest one to work with? Which was your most challenging to work with?
Well, the kids, I liked the kids, even the ones that got in trouble. I liked them, you know.
Yeah.
It's the ones that got into trouble, I really kind of liked most of them
Uh-huh.
because they didn't get in trouble with me so much.
Sure.
It was other people. Um, the first thing they'd say when they came in was, all I did was, and I said, that's your problem. Can't do that.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit here. So over those 80s, 90s, 2000s, and teens, any sort of favorite relationships can be, peers, colleagues, kids. Any fun relationships that kind of came out of your time?
Um, well, for a while there, I had office assistants.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved that because a lot of times didn't get to know the kids unless you're sick or naughty. I don't know who you are, probably.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got to know them well then. And then they were able to go during their study halls. Towards the end, they were able to leave during their study halls. So they all did. So I didn't never have office aides at the
Oh,
end.
yeah, yeah.
And I missed that
Yeah.
because I didn't, if they were from Amboy kids, I maybe knew them better. But if they were Minnesota Lake, Mapleton, I didn't necessarily know who they were. The ones from Amboy had the misfortune of me calling them their dad's name.
That was a big chunk of your life. Are there any aspects of the job that you miss?
I miss. Oh, I miss the people. I miss the kids. I really miss. I do notice that I asked somebody if anybody filled the paper, the copy paper, and the secretaries that are now don't fill copy paper. I said it was easy to do, and then the teacher, I felt it was a thing to do so that the teachers didn't have to stop and fill the copy machine with paper.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're rushing in there and wants the copy quick, and all
Oh,
of a
yeah.
sudden there's no paper in the
Right.
copy machine. So every morning or at night, I would fill it before I went home.
That was part of the
So
routine.
that was just part of my routine, and so I
Gotcha.
was really surprised that
What don't you miss? What were some of the annoyances of your duties, your jobs?
some of the teachers. That's not nice, but there were some that were kind of annoying.
Looking back on your time as an Eagle, and even before that, do you have any sort of real vivid memories or moments that took place during your time? Just like that's a standout moment.
Yes, in 1993, the boys basketball team won the state basketball tournament.
And what was that like being in the building during that time period? How did it affect you?
Well, it was just crazy, and everybody wanted to go, and just nuts. Yeah. Yeah.
So everything had to get shut down?
Oh yeah, we shut it down, and we had buses up there, and we filled it, and then we went the next year, and we did, and when you win, you get treated like kings, as far as your dressing room and
Oh, okay.
this and that for the players, and but if the next year when you lose, you're behind a curtain in the gym to change your clothes.
Finally, I reminded Jane how my early career began teaching in the modulars, which she often forgot were out in the parking lot. I think that was like my first couple of years because I was out in mobile homes. Remember the mobile homes?
Yes, and I always worried about I forgot about those, about the tornado drills and the fire drills.
Yeah, we'd be left out on the tornado drills when we were in mobile homes.
Gotcha out there. I forgot about that.
Thanks for the memories, Jane. I hope you continue to enjoy your golden years.